So Virgo, the Virgin, and it's inevitable that we put two and two together and go from Virgo to Virgin. I've not observed the slightest correlation between Virgo and virginity or, sexual primness. If anything, I would say the opposite is true because this is an earthy moon. We feel comfortable with the realities of the physical body. But the idea of virginity in a different way, I would say, is relevant, and I'll get to that later. So you have the soul of the servant, a soul that wants to be helpful, that wants to serve a good cause. So you have the mood of someone who wants to be helpful towards other beings. But again, the connotation can be misleading, as with the name of the sign Virgo. So maybe to correct that, I'd like to add a more useful description that Virgo is the craftsperson. Now, a craftsperson is good at something. A craftsperson has a skill. And when I say craftsperson, I don't necessarily mean, a basket weaver or like arts and crafts, because a brain surgeon has skills, a set of skills. So does a dentist. We're talking about any skill set. We may have a natural inclination, a natural instinct for it, right? Because they were talking about the moon. It's about really dedicating our heart, to that skill. It's about constantly perfecting it. We make the effort. We educate ourselves. We polish that God-given skill to become that craftsperson. And then that skill is of service to other people, which swings us right back to the servant, the idea of serving. So the secret of happiness, if you have a Virgo moon, is to be good at something that can be helpful to other people, to do work that matters. And then we ask, well, what is work that matters? And the answer would be, is that we've made a difference in the world. We've made a difference in someone else's life. That's the essence of it. So to feel good about yourself, honor this mood of industriousness, this hunger for excellence, this reaching out for meaningful skills. This is absolutely fundamental to Virgo. Now, with that said, I want to move on to another level. And here again, we want to go back to that word, virginity, or Virgo, the Virgin. Historically, when people were perhaps even more confused about sexuality than we are now, even though we think we're totally, progressive and free about it, the idea was that virginity is a kind of exalted state of purity. So if we think of virginity as being an expression of purity, we get to a very essential part of what the Virgo experiences, where the Virgo person sees the ideal, right? The pure. But then there's reality, which is imperfect. And that's why we say that Virgos, or we don't say it, that's why a lot of Virgo people are perfectionists, because they're aware of that gap where the tension between the ideal and the real becomes compelling to us. So there's a mood of restlessness and of hunger and of drive. This is not a mellow, laid back mood. You didn't come here to be mellow. You came here to grow. You're like burning evolutionary rocket fuel, no matter what you accomplish. Now, the danger of this mood, like being aware of the gap between what is ideal and what is real, the danger is that we begin to compare ourselves to perfection. Because if we're earthy and realistic, we all fall short of perfection, right? So the danger, or the pitfall of the shadow of the Virgo moon is being very self-judgmental, beating oneself up, setting unrealistic standards, and obviously failing at them because we are not perfect beings. There's a sense of defeat and despair, and I'm a hopeless case. The danger is of this constant self-doubt. So how do we counter that? How do we get out of that loop? In light of all the things we've talked about here, to say to a Virgo moon person, don't judge yourself, don't be so self-critical, is completely useless, because that's the nature, But to judge yourself not by the standard of perfection, but by the standard of your effort, that would be something that a Virgo moon, I think, could take as useful advice. And, if we can make that flip, because it's really a kind of a flip of the framework, then the Virgo moon won't judge itself compared to perfection and spiral down to despair and self-sabotage, rather than looking at our efforts, our hard work, and thus staying healthy. To maintain a sense of purpose and well-being, it's very important for the Virgo moon person to honor that craftsperson in you. And whatever you do, whatever craft and skill or trade or, career that you're constantly perfecting, because Virgo always sees what's wrong with everything and what's wrong inside them. And so to honor your work, there's a dignity in that. But when you do give and you help, the Virgo Moon person needs to know that they have helped, needs to feel the gratitude from the person they're helping. And that will boost your sense of serving, serving for a good cause and making a difference in the world, in someone else's life. And if you don't get that feedback, and you feel that you're just giving and giving and giving because you really want to do the job well, then the self-doubt creeps in, right, for the Virgo Moon. Then that down spiral of despair and self-sabotage and, maybe I'm not good enough arises. So learning to love yourself for your effort, for your intention, and for the outcome of it. I want to learn to love myself despite everything that's going on. And I want to be of service to humanity.